new White Hart Lane atmosphere. What do you think? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it mediocre? Can it be improved? What do you think could improve it? Safe standing. Is that something that we would like as fans in our stadium? We have the ability to have safe standing. Should we be pushing for it? Should we be trying to get that in? Will that add to the atmosphere? Will people be more readily able to sing or willing to sing and chant if they're in a standing position? And I appreciate it's a UEFA rule that you can stand at stadiums. Okay. And this goes back to the Hillsborough tragedy, and I am by no means writing that off as or trying to play that down. Absolutely terrible situation for those people that lost their lives. But trying to look at it objectively, trying to take the emotion out of that. The issue with the issue with standing and at Hillsborough wasn't so much to do with the fact that people were standing that created the problem. What created the problem was too many people standing in a area that wasn't built to take that. Of course, then you've got the issues around the policing and their reaction and so on and so forth, and the cages that used to cage us all in to stop us getting on the pitch or whatever. Okay, so there are a lot of fundamental issues with that. It's not literally the issue of standing up. Standing up didn't cause the problem. There were other issues that created that, and standing doesn't help. However, safe standing is what it says, safe. So instead of buying a seat to sit in, you're buying a standing position. So, okay, me personally, I like to stand. I like standing. I like the idea of standing. I would still pay the same amount to go and stand as I would to go and sit in my seat in the Paxton. So for me, yes, it would be a good improvement. Okay. So 1882, right in the middle of the South Stand. Is that a good idea or not? Are those guys that are paying all that money for the facilities that they get, would they be happy not being able to sit? Would they be happy having to stand after paying the money that they've paid? Now, they may well be, but could the positioning of those of that club, of that I don't know how you call it, that phase, could that have been put somewhere else? Should that have been put somewhere else? So then I was thinking, so what about designated areas, for instance? So the Paxton generally used to be the family enclosure, so children and so on and so forth. But of course now we've got the away fans in that bit there, and it has injected a little bit of atmosphere into the Paxton, but not as much as you would think might be. I don't know, I won't say the term useful, but for me as a person sitting there, if I want to stand up and start singing "Come On You Spurs," the atmosphere doesn't generate that easily where I'm sitting. Okay, so there are pockets in there, but not generally the whole stand. So in terms of planning around your stadium, could they have designated the South Stand, for instance, and sold those tickets as this is going to be our atmosphere stand? You know, for instance, there's probably loads of better terms out there than that terminology. But I was thinking, you've got 17,500 people in there, and there has been some complaints from people about persistent standing and so on and so forth in that stand. But if that stand had been sold as, listen, if you buy a ticket in there, that's where our atmosphere is going to be generated from. That's where the bulk of the atmosphere is going to be generated from. That's what we're planning. You know, that's the area that we would like to see really come to life, right? If it was sold as that, then those people buying those tickets would know that that's what they're getting themselves into. In the same way that if you're buying a ticket in the Paxton and it's more a family orientated stand and it was sold as that, then you would know, oh, I'm buying a ticket for me and I'm buying a ticket for one of my children or my wife or whatever. So that's where I would like to sit. So, you know, I don't know whether that makes sense to anybody or not, but for me, I just felt that would be quite a good idea in terms of knowing that you can get like-minded people together, because, you know, let's face it, we're all different. There are people that like to go to the games and sit there and just watch it in silence and go home again. Equally, there are people that like to go there, that like to have a right old good booze up and stand up and sing and shout and all the rest of it. So you need to kind of cater for both sorts of people. I made the comment, I was talking to a guy on Twitter about atmosphere. I for the first time since the first game, I actually brought my flag. Okay, silly little thing, it's just a flag. So I brought it along because I know another guy called Billy who takes his big flag with him week in, week out, and he puts his flag up, and we was having a chat about it, and I said, no, I'm going to bring my flag so we can both see each other's flags, blah blah blah. And so I purposely brought it. However, in the Paxton, the only place to hang a flag is over the railings at the front. So that's what I did. Typed my flag on, hung it over the front, no problem whatsoever. And Billy messaged me a picture of his flag up. Someone's taking a picture of his flag, and I'm looking around for it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, I can't spot you. It turns out he was up above me anyway. So I said, oh, I've got my flag out, and he said, not for long, because you're hanging it over the advertising. And I'm like, well, there ain't anywhere else to hang it. You know, there's nowhere else to hang a flag. But as it turns out, he was right. Before the game had kicked off even, the stewards had removed the flag. So I had a chat with these two really nice young guys and said, look, you know, what's going on? You know, you've taken my flag down. And they said, well, it's covering the advertising. I said, well, it is on like LED going all the way around the ground. So if it says AIA there, it's going to say it all the way around. I mean, it's a 4-foot flag. It's not like it's blocking the whole thing off, and you're not going to get the message that we're sponsored by AIA. And I said, yeah, well, it's not down to us. You know, it's spotted on the cameras, and the cameras have said you've got to take it down. Okay, you know, I get it. You know, they don't want it there. It's spoiling their advertising view. But for me, that's kind of something that they've maybe not thought about, because prior to the stadium opening, they were putting messages out saying that flags would be welcome and so on and so forth. So the fact that it's not there and you can't put it out there now, there's no point bringing it. What's the point of bringing a flag if you can't put it up anywhere? There are two bits at the south stand where you can hang flags hanging down between where the south stand joins the east and west stands, and people put their flags up there and they look great, but there isn't anywhere else where you can kind of show your colours or whatever. Now, if you do any other kind of social media, on Instagram there is a page, Spurs Flags on Instagram, and I kid you not, there are hundreds of really good designs of flags, all different, from all over the country, from all over the world, with all different kind of topics and all the rest of it. And for me, I just think they make a fantastic display, and it would be great to have them hanging around, being seen, and that kind of stuff. So I just think that the club's again kind of missed a little trick in terms of making people feel that it's their home. So I made the comment, and I didn't really mean it in the way it come across, but I made the comment on Twitter that, you know, new stadiums, and including White Hart Lane, are sterile. And I don't really mean it in that way, that it's sterile, literally you can't do anything, because Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium is fantastic. I mean, there is so much great detailing in there that really makes you feel like it is our stadium, and it's kept our heritage, and it's just like going back to our own stadium, just a bit bigger and a bit nicer. So, you know, there are some great touches, and they really did think about the fans for an awful lot of it. But at the same time, those aspects don't complement the bits that actually create the atmosphere. And I'm not saying flags create atmosphere, but they create part of the spectacle that creates atmosphere. You know, if you look at visiting supporters, especially from abroad, so if you take Bayern Munich for instance, now you cannot take a bottle cap into the stadium and put a bottle cap on top of your bottle of Coke or whatever. So how the hell are they getting 4, 5, 6 foot poles into a stadium to wave a flag about? How? Right? So, and how are they able to stand for the whole game without being challenged by a steward? So it kind of goes against my point, really, about what happens as a home fan. You know, we can't take that stuff in. We can't hang our flags up because it spoils the advertising. We can't stand up and wave a flag because you get told up for standing. So how does that help atmosphere? So if you look around at some of the teams that have been to White Hart Lane, and the atmosphere that they create and everything, and even if you take Watford, I mean, I felt that the Watford fans were really good. They sung loud and proud and everything. But again, if you look across, all standing up, no challenge. So it's all well and good having this rule about safe standing and so on, but it's not enforced across the board, you know, all the time. And that kind of tells me something, that if all the away fans want to stand up all the way through the game, then clearly there is a demand for that. And I just think, you know, it's time that they started to have a look in that, because things are becoming rather, I say, I don't like to use the term sterile, but it is becoming a little bit sterile in terms of, you know, lots of people sitting all the way through the game, not singing. You can't wave a flag and you know. So how do you, the things that we used to do to create an atmosphere and to make it feel like a fun part of the day are kind of being worn away. And I get the point, right? Advertising pays for all the things that the club wants to do, because they make more money out of advertising and TV and so on and so forth than they do from fans in the ground. But have you ever watched Scottish football or lower league football on TV where there's hardly any fans? If you can hear the players shouting at each other and you can hear the thud of a player kicking a ball, what does that say? You know, do you think that you know, that the atmosphere is not required, that fans aren't required? Because for me personally, I think it is. I think, you know, if the fans are sitting there bored and not making any kind of sound whatsoever, then that takes away from the spectacle. And I think, you know, maybe the clubs need to think about that a little bit, and what they can do to help the fans make an atmosphere. And I'm not suggesting that we have piped support, or, you know, a drum player or a trumpet player or a band or any of that kind of stuff to artificially create it. But what I'm thinking is, you know, to give us the opportunity to be able to do what we want to do, to create the places where fans can be together, that are like-minded, for instance, that are able to do the same things, go for safe standing. Look at your pricing structure for things like 1882 and so on. Is that working where it is? You know, and stadia decorations. I mean, okay, if you don't want fans to bring flags, that's fine. But instead of just having all these constant messages about buy this, buy that, or we're sponsored by this or sponsored by that, why don't you have the flags, you know, on a loop going round on the TVs from time to time, or as a banner going round the ground, or whatever, you know, or create a place for flags to go, you know, even if it's not going to be inside the ground, I mean, outside the ground, on the south stand terrace. You know, maybe we could get somewhere there where you could display flags and so on, you know, to make it feel a little, I mean, it almost feels to me, to a certain extent, like the ground is a show home. This is what it should be like. This is what we're creating for you. But how many of us actually live in a show home? What do we do to make it our own home? We put our little knickknacks out, we put our pictures up, we, you know, put our chair in the right place and make it a bit more comfortable, or, you know, scatter cushions. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting you bring your scatter cushions or your big comfortable chair to White Hart Lane. I guess I'm just rambling a little bit, just thinking about it as I'm driving. Yeah. Listen, just to finish off, what I'm trying to get to the point of, you know, in terms of atmosphere, there are certain things that help that process, and the game's moving on. You know, this is modern football, right? You know, things have changed an awful lot from sort of the 70s and 80s and stuff. And when something's old and decrepit, people don't take care of it as much as perhaps they once would, and so on. So, you know, it'll take time for this stadium to really feel like a proper home, and that I just feel that maybe, given Poch's comments about atmosphere, and to be fair, he was probably more talking about some of the booing that happened at half time, which there was. I've got to be honest, you know, I did hear some booing. He was probably more concerned about that than he's talking about, you know, people getting behind the team and singing and so on. But it is a real balance, you know, it is a real balance, you know, for the fans to get behind the team, they need to feel that the team are performing. But for the players to get up for a game, sometimes they need the supporters cheering them on. So it is a real bit of a chicken and egg scenario to a certain extent, in that, you know, you need one to support the other, and, you know, someone's got to start it, right? So it is a bit difficult, but I just think, you know, there are some elements that the club could think about to just constantly evolve and improve the experience for the fans that go to the grounds. You know, I mean, if you go into some of the pubs and that around Tottenham, you know, it's not all about looking the swishest and the smartest and the most well painted and all the rest of it. It's about having an atmosphere in there. It's about allowing people to show their emotion, to show their you know, their character, I guess. You know, football has always been pretty much a working class sport. You know, you've had, you know, predominantly male orientated and all the rest of it. And again, you know, I'm not suggesting that it should stay like that. I do believe that it should grow and it should develop and all the rest of it. And it is from that point of view. But at the same time, it needs to think about the things that have worked and do work for fans. I mean, you consider when we first opened the new stadium. Okay, forget about Wembley, but when we first opened the new stadium, on the day, the first game against Crystal Palace, What did they put on every single seat? A flag. Welcome home. When we played our first Champions League game, they set it up so everyone could hold up a bag to create a, you know, to dare is to do. You know, and how fantastic did that look? You know, and how involved did that make the fans? You know, so I'm just suggesting that, you know, they give some thought to some of the stuff that helps to create that spectacle, because you're selling it on TV where most of your money comes from. And as I've said, if you've watched lower league football where there isn't a lot of fans, there isn't a lot of atmosphere, it doesn't make for good television. The football can be fantastic, you can have the greatest players playing, but the person watching it on the TV likes to hear the roar of the crowd. And when there is a goal, where do the cameras pan to? They pan to the stands to see the supporters going crazy, enjoying themselves, because that creates a television spectacle. So not having opportunity to enhance that spectacle, for me, misses a bit of a trick. And no, this isn't about my flag. This isn't about my flag. As disappointed as I am that I can't fly my flag in my home ground, it's not about that. But it just kind of made me think. It kind of perked my interest. I don't know. Listen, think about it. You might disagree with me. You might agree with me. Drop a comment. You know, let me know. What do you think? Do you think I'm on the right track, or do you think I'm totally out of whack with modern football? Am I just an old fart who doesn't understand the modern game and where we're going? Quite possibly. And like I keep saying, it's all about opinions. Good luck to the boys tonight. Let's hope we can progress a bit further in the Champions League and get a few more points, eh? I'm not there, but I'll be watching along. Up the Spurs.